biased question, but that's why I like this radio show. How dumb does Obama think we are?
I think he thinks we're pretty dumb. I have trouble even listening to the man anymore. I find, I mean, he just loves the Republicans. He really does, and he.
Oh yeah.
And Roseanne says, "Oh yeah."
He said some years ago I would qualify as a moderate Republican myself.
Like now.
Well, now the Republicans keep pushing. They have a very good strategy. I mean, very good for their viewpoint. Instead of going along with him and all this, they keep pushing and attacking him and going further right. And so he.
Right.
That's
exactly right.
The center of political gravity keeps moving over toward the right, further to the right now.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying, but I don't think, listen, he's a black man. If Obama were progressive, if he were a liberal, if to the far left, the whole world would explode. Because because there's something, there are different rules for different people in our society. Black folks can't get away with the same things that white folks can get away with. We have you don't agree with that?
Well, what about Obama though?
That's giving in to racism before the fight is even fought. Why don't you just say? I'm not a black man. I'm not a white man. I'm president of the United States, democratically elected, and the people need certain things, and let's go for those things. And that's people of all races and such. I'm not favoring any group, and don't charge me of that.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. But listen, people see him. Does he look like a white man? Does Obama look like a white man?
I understand what you're saying, but that's why they think they think they have us in intellectual checkmate with all that. Because in reality, it is irrelevant, the color of the presidency or the gender of the president. It should be irrelevant.
That's right. When you get a woman in the office, what they say, the new woman is like the old man.
No kidding. Oh yeah.
And so what we want, your demographic background is not the crucial variable. It's what you do.
No kidding. It's not what you say, it's what you do. It's not what you get up there and say you believe, it's what you do. That shows what you really believe.
Oh, come on.
It's such a trick.
But that's like in the best of all possible worlds. Reality, folks, is that racism is real. That's why why the Tea Party folks and the Republicans are attacking him on racial issues. Do you see the pictures, the placards?
I know, but I think it's just theater, Kathleen. It's manipulative theater because look what they're doing. They're a duopolistic one-party system. It's a money party. It's a bankster party, and they're moving farther and farther to the right as they manipulate all these divisions in American classes. I mean, for God's sake, after they get rid of Obama with their fake fight that they've got going for television audiences, the next president is gonna be friggin' Jeb Bush or somebody even more right wing than we'd ever feared.
So,
Roseanne is making a good point. If Obama vacillates and yields and gives in and it wants to compromise on the compromise and compromise yet again, doesn't develop a counter rhetoric and argue back and hit back, then he just leaves it open. We become more and more vulnerable, and the right can just push harder and faster to the right, and there's nothing they're encountering. Nothing. The only thing the
right wants to divide America along race lines.
America is divided.
I think the right wants to keep the system of intense accumulation for the very few going. That's the goal.
Slavery.
If using racism or sexism or gay baiting or anything, if that comes in handy, if that helps, then they will use that as one of the instruments to achieve their goal. But they don't care one way or the other if a senator or a president or anybody is black or Espanol or a woman or a man. They care They care about whether you serve that 1%. And in the last 4 years, that 1% has gained 99% of all the new wealth that's been accumulated. So they're really just taking over, and the rest of us are just barely holding on.
It's a Wall Street scam like it was like it always is. But, I think that they figured out the president is just a television character that, gives speeches and then, is given his orders. The president isn't, the president works for money. He works for money, for like big money.
Yes. Yes. I mean, one of the jobs of a president, and that's why Ronald Reagan was so eminently prepared to be president. People said, right, he's a movie actor. He's a movie actor. Why should he be president? Oh, that's a very good training for the job. He'd get up and he'd act his way through the presidency, and he'd talk about Americans and my fellow Americans, and we this, and God bless America, and we're good people, and so forth and so on, and just gloss over things while the boys at the top got their hands in our pockets,
Well, I agree. I think we have both. I agree with you that yes, he's a figurehead, and yes, there is racism. I think both. And also, why don't we address this issue about why are we having wars in the Middle East? Why are we, constantly consumed with what's going on in the Middle East and feel that military intervention is the answer? And that's imperialism. That's what you talk about and write about, right?
Yes.
Michael? Yeah.
Well, I mean, an empire has only two kinds of nations on its perimeters. It has satellites, that is, countries that accommodate the empire, that open up their land, their labor, their markets, their natural resources to that empire, are totally cooperative and submissive. So it has satellites, or it has enemies or potential enemies. And that's all those other nations that want to go their own way. Libya wanted to go its own way. Iraq, under Saddam Hussein, after all the deals he made with Washington, decided he wanted to go his own way. Well, they whacked him for that. Yugoslavia wanted to go its own way. Syria wants to go its own way. Syria has, it has currency standards and all that. It doesn't bow down to the dollar. It has social services. It is not part of any pact with the U.S. It doesn't bow down to Israel either. So these are some of the reasons why the Middle East is a source of immense wealth and oil. In addition, and the way you make that world safe is you break these countries up and you put in a leadership that will make the country more of a satellite rather than a potential enemy. Now, the countries themselves don't want to be enemies. They say, we want to negotiate and have friendship with the U.S. and trade with them and all that. But that itself is still committing economic nationalism, is what I call it. And that was what Saddam Hussein was doing. He was using the resources of Iraq for the Iraqis. Iraq had the highest standard of living in the Middle East, and that wasn't what it was supposed to have. It was supposed to be there in service to that 1% that rules America. They don't like countries that have elaborate social services for their people, have socialized things. Well, how do you know that? Well, look at our own country. They don't like social services here. They want to privatize or destroy or eliminate every human service we have here, right down to the post office, and the absence of any kind of government health care system. You have to have this rigmarole Obamacare instead, which has some good things in it.
So let me ask you a question. What do you think about President Obama reaching out to President Rouhani of Iran?
I thought that was a good step. And Obama has a number of top generals on his own chief of staff, chief of staff, who are not at all keen. Going back to Admiral Mike Mullen, when he was chief of staffs with these guys are not happy about the idea of attacking and bombing and killing and destroying a nation of 90 million people, Iran. He said, what fight do we have with Iran? What exactly is the? And I think Obama that's registered with him, but I think he was having. It doesn't mean anything, you know. There are a lot of cases where the leaders have a sunny little meeting, and then some months later, country A is bombing.
I thought it signaled a more moderate turn. I mean, you know, his words. I kind of was impressed with his words. If I were Obama, I would be looking forward to speaking to him.
Yeah, you know, but Ahmadinejad, the previous president of Iran, if I pronounce his name right, he wrote that beautiful letter to President George W. Bush. It never got publicized in the media, maybe one or two little sentences from it. But it was a letter of such friendship and decency, and he said, you're a Christian, and Christians believe in peace and love, and let us live together in peace and love. And so everybody just saw him as a crazy nut, and he was characterized that way. This guy maybe will get a better press. I don't know. The one person who attacked that get together of theirs is Netanyahu of Israel, who is furiously warning us that Iran is a demon nation and we must not turn our backs from them. But in fact, there's no evidence to support his position. They want to look.
Why do you think he's saying it then?
They want to find dangerous signs, or be able to make out dangerous signs in the country to justify any attack or aggression they want to level against that country. Iran is on the hit list. It is, and you don't have to take my word for it. Take the word of President George W. Bush, who said there's an evil axis of Iraq, Iran, and North Korea, he said. And Iran and North Korea both have seen what have happened to Iraq, and they know they're next on the list. Iran has an awful lot of oil. It's a big country. And the way the empire justifies their stoking up the fears is they say it's becoming a regional power. That's exactly what they said about Iraq. Oh, it's becoming a regional power because it's a small. Iraq is about the size of Montana or Texas or something. They can't admit that it's not big enough to take on and conquer the world. So they say it's a regional power. It'll take over the whole Middle East, and then